Buying a home in Texas is not just the price on the listing. There are a ton of hidden and upfront costs that can surprise first-time buyers and even experienced buyers if they're not prepared. Today, I am breaking down every cost that you need to know before buying a home here in Texas, from earnest money to inspections to property taxes and more, so you can budget smart and avoid surprises. Hey y'all, I'm Shayla, a North Texas realtor born and raised right here. I work with buyers across Van Alstyne, Sherman, McKinney, and so many other surrounding areas here in North Texas. And I see these costs trip people up all the time. So let's break down everything that you will pay when buying a home here in Texas so that you can feel fully prepared. Here in Texas, once you are under contract, you are going to have 3 days to turn 2 things into the title company. First is your earnest money. This is the deposit that you put down when your offer is accepted to show the seller that you're serious. We call this good faith money here in Texas. Here in Texas, it's usually about 1 to 2% of the purchase price, and this is applied towards your down payment at closing. Thankfully, as a buyer, your earnest money is protected in many ways. There are a lot of outs for buyers, not so much for sellers. So your earnest money is protected in many different parts of the contract. But make sure your contract clearly states how this money is handled if the deal falls through. Make sure your realtor explains to you all the ways that you can get your earnest money back and also when you cannot get it back. Next, you have your option money. Here in Texas, we give buyers an option period, which ranges from 5 to 10 days depending on your contract. And this is when you can back out for any reason. You'll pay the seller a small, non-refundable fee for this right. It typically ranges between $100 to $500, just depending on the home price and depending on the kind of market that we're in. What this option period does is it gives you time to bring in third-party inspectors. So this is when you're gonna hire your inspector to check out the entire home. If the property has a septic system that needs checked out, you'll have the septic company come out and do a septic inspection. If you have a pool, you may want a pool inspection. If you have propane, you may want a propane inspection. There's so many different things that you can have done during this period to make sure you feel comfortable with the home that you're purchasing. Also, if you plan on updating the home or adding a shop or adding a mother-in-law suite, whatever it may be, this is your time to bring in that builder and those contractors to get quotes and measurements and all the things. This option period really gives you time to do those inspections and decide if you truly want to move forward on the home. So your third cost are the inspections. So obviously during your option period, you're gonna have these inspections and they can be a major cost. So that's why you want to make sure you really love the home when you put an offer on it. Because if you do this multiple times, that can really, add up. You'll want your general home inspection, which can range between $350 up to $1,000. It really just depends on the square footage of the home. Like I said, if it has a pool, if it has additional things that are going to need to be inspected, that's going to raise the cost of the inspection. Also, if you're a VA buyer, your lender is going to require a termite inspection, which that can range, about $250. Once again, septic inspection, that can sometimes range to $250. So it can really rack up. However, you are spending, let's say $500,000 on a home, that $500 to $1,000 on inspections is worth every penny. I do not ever recommend waiving an inspection. Having those inspections can save you thousands and thousands of dollars and also save you from purchasing a home that may have a whole bunch of hidden, issues. So even in a crazy competitive market, I never recommend my buyers waive inspections. It is 100% worth it. So the other cost that's going to be due prior to closing is your appraisal fee. If you are financing the home, your lender will require an appraisal to confirm the home's value. Sometimes there's ways around this, but typically you are going to need an appraisal. You can expect to pay around $400 to $800 just depending on the property. So an appraisal is where a third-party appraiser is going to come in and do an appraisal in the home. Make sure that the home is worth what you are under contract for. You know, if you're under contract for $600,000 and it only appraises at $550,000, you know, the seller is gonna have to come down to that $550,000, or you're gonna have to come to a compromise and get creative. going back to your earnest money, this is one of those outs for a buyer. If the home does not appraise and the seller is not willing to come down on price, you can walk away and get your earnest money back. Obviously, you'll still be out your option fee and all of the money that you spent on inspections, but you get that 1% to 2% earnest money back, which is a huge peace of mind. But at this point, usually sellers are not wanting to go back on the market and hopefully willing to compromise. So if they won't come down, let's say to that $550,000, and maybe you are bringing a big chunk of cash to closing as your down payment, maybe you could meet in the middle at $570 and you bring $20,000 to closing, to meet in the middle. Your lender is not going to lend money for a house that does not appraise. So, you're gonna have to come to a compromise. Now, property taxes. Texas property taxes are some of the highest in the country. For example, a $400,000 home in Collin County can be $7,500 to $8,500 a year. Taxes are going to be prorated and paid at closing or escrowed monthly with your mortgage. It's completely up to you. Now, there are ways to avoid property taxes here in Texas. For instance, if you're a disabled veteran, you can file for that exemption, which is huge. Another cost is homeowners insurance. This usually costs around $1,500 to $3,000 per year, depending on location and your home's value. If you're buying in a community with a homeowners association, you will pay monthly, quarterly, or annually HOA fees. This can range sometimes from $100 to $400 a month or $1,500 a year. You're gonna wanna check before you close on the home exactly how much your HOA fees are going to be. Once again, the HOA fee will be prorated at closing. If the seller has already paid for the year, they're going to be given a credit back at closing. You'll be responsible for the remainder of the year. Even after you move into the home, there's going to be ongoing maintenance. Experts suggest budgeting 1% to 2% of your home's value per year for things like roof, HVAC service, plumbing, landscaping, especially if you have a bigger yard or acreage. Maintenance is part of owning a home. There are going to be things that go out, so you definitely want some cushion in your bank just in case something happens. Another cost to prepare for are closing costs, which include your lender fees, title insurance, escrow fees, recording fees, and more. You can expect 2 to 5% of the purchase price. Now, depending on the situation, some costs may be negotiable and some even may be covered by the seller, but you need to prepare and plan for them. And finally, utilities and lifestyle costs. So you've got electric, water, gas, lawn irrigation, trash services. Big yards and pools and gated communities can add hundreds extra each month. So you need to plan and prepare for your utility costs. So to recap, here is everything you need to budget for when buying a home in Texas. You've got your earnest money, option money, inspections, appraisal fee, property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA fees, maintenance and repairs, closing costs and lender fees, and utilities and lifestyle costs. If you want help calculating the real cost of buying a home here in North Texas, reach out. I will walk you through every fee and expense so that you are fully prepared. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and check out my other content for more insider real estate tips.